Ooh. It's Monday. It's May 12th. It's 2014, and welcome to Day 9 Daily number 703, where we learn to be a better gamer. I'm back. Oh! Took a vacation, which was more like a staycation, because largely what I did is play Hearthstone, tuned into a little bit of Magic the Gathering drafts, didn't draw any land. I watched television, I watched movies. I watched an okay movie a day on vacation. I watched nothing that was particularly exceptional, but I did watch some titles that were awful amazing, such as Spider-Man 2. Oh my god. If you're in the mood for nothing but scenes with the emotions ramped up to 11, oh yeah, you gotta see this. Oh, I love it. Harry Osborn comes back. Peter, I'm sick and I need you to get a hold of Spider-Man for me, like, right now! Peter Parker's like, why? And Harry's like, I need to have sex with his blood. And I'm like, wait, what? He's like, I need it. Can you call him? Do you have his phone? Anything. Oh, Harry. It's awful amazing. You gotta see that movie. It's really great. Ugh. Gotta have sex with his blood immediately. It's the only thing that can cure me. Harry. He was bitten by a spider. I know it. So that was great. I got sick over the show. I'll tell you about, or over the vacation. I'll tell you a little bit about that. But first, let's talk about the topic. It's life versus innovation. Here's the setup. Here is what's going to be happening in the show. We're going to first look at what I'll call the baseline game. Just the nice baseline game. It's like at a lie detector test when they hook you up and they're like, what's your name? And you're like, Sean. And they're like, we've got a baseline. I don't know if that's true, but that's what they've showed me in CSI. So cool. Once we get that baseline game, we'll see that normal Terran vs. Zerg game. We'll hop into two alternate games that are like alternate universe matchups, where we'll see how innovation switches into a marine tank play in response to seeing life do this Roach Hydra play. And similarly, in the third game, we'll see life do an interesting response based upon what he sees innovation do. Because the core concept I want to throw out there is that excuse me, is that as easy as it is to want to do a pre-planned build order, to be able to just follow it start to finish like a normal thing, oftentimes you do have to make pretty significant adjustments, and it's important to know when, why, and how. And we'll again see the baseline games and see how these players adjust from that starting point. They're not pre-planned builds, they're sort of response builds. And to just kick things off on the right, I want to make sure everything that's supposed to be muted is muted good. I want to tell you a little bit of a story, a little story time. So this is something that happened to me when I was over break. I got sick. And typically I don't really mind being sick that much. I find it mostly kind of annoying, but my lifestyle does not really need me to be well. I like playing video games. I like watching TV and movies. I like reading. And I like eating. Eating is really the one thing that being sick invades, because I like to go to tasty restaurants if I can. But other than that, yeah, no big deal. So I was just taking a regular regiment of like NyQuil in the evening and DayQuil when I woke up in the morning. Except on Saturday, last Saturday, it was a wedding. One of my great friends, Daniel, who I went to grad school with and a number of totally kick-ass projects with, such as the, if you remember my previous story of how I almost died, how I stayed up all night coding, yeah, that Daniel, he got married. So, I'm really excited. I wake up on Saturday, I wake up at like 12:30, feeling good, and accidentally take NyQuil. Oh no, because the wedding is at like 4 p.m. and suddenly I'm feeling these green pills in my tummy and realizing, no, I gotta drive from Palo Alto up to San Francisco, and then I gotta sit through a wedding, and I gotta like cry and shit. I can't sleep through this. And suddenly, the inner decisive Sean comes out. One of the traits I have worked on so hard, something I'm most proud of, is my ability to act quickly and decisively when the pressure's on. So at this point in time, I'm completely naked except for boxers because I've just woken up, and I turn to Tristan and say, I gotta go throw up right now, and just stand up and immediately put my shoes on and clomp away into the bathroom. Because I put the shoes on, I don't want my feet to get wet. See, I'm still thinking properly here. And I try to throw up into the toilet to get the NyQuil out. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, ugh, like sticking my finger into my throat, and I can't throw up, but I'm like trying to make myself do it, and I'm like, tears like pouring down my face. I'm like, oh God, making all those noises that people who lift weights make to try to sound tough. I'm doing that in the bathroom in my boxers and my Converse All-Stars. And after a while, my throat's like burning because the stomach acid is like hurling against my already sore throat from the disease. And it dawns on me, and I just walk out to Tristan and I'm like, maybe I should just take a nap. Maybe I didn't think this through as thoroughly as I probably should have. I think what I'm going to do, actually, Tristan, is probably just take a nap instead. And, well, you know, maybe I was being hurried and rushed, so I decided to hop onto the internet and see if this had happened to anyone else. So I Googled, accidentally took N, and it just autofills NyQuil instead of Dayquil. And I'm like, oh, okay, perfect. Some people have done this before, no problem, I can investigate. And there's sort of like tiers of discussion. Like, people enjoy saying things like, dude, Reddit comments, oh, they're the worst. But they're pretty damn good when compared to, like, YouTube comments, which are very good compared to tech support help on the internet. And at the far bottom is looking up medical advice on the internet. So when I hop online to try to check this out, I see some forum thread where this guy says, man, I actually took NyQuil instead of Dayquil. And in a few hours I have to drive home, and I have a 40-minute commute. Is it safe to drive? What should I do? And this is the internet. So the first response is, just man up and drink caffeine, dude. It's NyQuil, not a date rape drug. And the second post after that is, well, actually in enough concentrate, NyQuil absolutely could be slipped into someone's drink as a date rape drug. And suddenly, like a flame war begins, and I'm just like, what the hell? And after like 4 pages of battling and concessions and varying references brought up of doctors and friends of friends of friends who went to fraternities and shit, what the internet successfully concluded is that Dayquil is definitely not a date rape drug. And I'm just, yeah, I should probably just take a nap. I think a nap sounds good. Took the nap, woke up, drank coffee, and largely just felt insane for the remainder of the evening. And the best part of all is when I went to the wedding and I got to tell all my buddies, Sean and Bill from Metadating were there, got to see them, chat a little bit, and what they didn't know is that when I told this whole story about my concern of driving up, they thought I was talking about driving from Los Angeles to San Francisco. So they thought that I woke up, took NyQuil, tried to throw up, and then just got in a car and drove here. And they're like, wait, are you driving back tonight? And I'm like, yeah, of course. And they're like, just crash at my place, man. You don't seem like you're in good enough condition to drive again. I'm like, dude, it's just like a little drive, man. I do it all the time. It's no big deal. Palo Alto is 1 hour away from San Francisco. LA is about 6 hours away, so. That's my tangent story. That is the most eventful thing that occurred, other than not drawing land. So let's go ahead and hop into this baseline game, alright? Nice baseline game. Look, we're enabling all the sounds, the appropriate things. Now, for any of you who watched DreamHack Bucharest, where this game was taken from, you'll recognize this game. I'm going to do them in the order that is most educationally relevant. Where we have innovation spawning here, and we have life spawning here. Now, there are usual tenets to this matchup. Zerg is going to go 3 bases, Lings, Banelings, Mutas. That is about what I want you to start from. I don't want you to get too caught up in anything but those 3. 3 base, Mutaling, Baneling. That's 2 things. You fucking focus, okay? That's all the only 2 things you really need to worry about. 3 bases, Ling, Baneling, Muta. It's all the little things that get me all wiggly. Similarly, what we're going to see sort of standardly out of the Terran is a mobile bioforce, once upon a time mine emphasis, but more recently is doing some other different emphases, the Hellbats and the Thors. Just something to deal with the air. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch innovation side of things, Foist, to see the usual setup, and we're even going to zoom back. And again, this game is the baseline. So what we'll largely be doing right now is just setting up this baseline match and seeing the micro, the tiny, the little adjustments that these players will make before we get into the sexier, bigger, larger scale adjustments later on. Innovation is going to go for 2 Reapers, buys plenty of opportunity to scout out the enemy and to control the map space. He'll use this to get up another expansion, at which point he'll begin transitioning into Hellions. He sees an expansion, nothing too notable. Only real question for a Terran player who's doing a standard goal in mind. 3 base, Marine, Marauder, Medevac with some factory support. The only thing he's really looking for is, are you all-inning me? Innovation's building his command center on his high ground, yada yada yada, no extra gas geyser yet, etc. Yada 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 yada. The big thing that you'll generally see players do before anything else is get the stim going and get the upgrades going. And I mean the big upgrades. So yeah, usual stuff. Controlling the map with Hellions and Reapers and getting all the big upgrades. Now, here's the first little adjustment I want you to think about. Game 1 is all baselines and micro adjustments. And I don't mean micro as in unit control, I mean micro as in tiny. Maybe I should call them pico adjustments or angstrom adjustments. I just tickled someone who likes little circles above their A's. Here's a little tiny one. Many players will often autopilot and just build a bunker here. But a little teensy adjustment that Innovation is making is to say, alright, life is very good at defending. And he's taking a 3rd base. You know what? I'll just rally to my front. I won't build a bunker. And I'll wait until I have enough money to build these additional structures at the front. And you'll look at Innovation as at 55 of 57 supply. He's not hurriedly rushing out a whole bunch of supply depots. He's waiting till a very typical time to just pop down 2 engineering bays. And there we see part of the rally being stepped in. And what wondrousness of Innovation's build order. How fantastical. Innovation is able to do this without building a bunker. Now this is the way that Terran players do it nowadays. They get 3 barracks right after they have their big old troop. Or Hellions doing their things. Sometimes this will work, sometimes this won't work, blah 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 blah. Once upon a time, Terran players relied on mines to stay alive, but mines are much weaker, so we don't have that tool to stay alive, and therefore Terran players are getting up a whole bunch of barracks earlier on. And this is where the game becomes very standard. This is where there's not really any adjustments to note. Other than perhaps Innovation took an opportunity to kill off some drones and killed off some, but still needs to keep these Hellions alive. Everything's researching, all the barracks numbers are getting big, he goes up to 5, he'll soon go up to 8, blah, 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 blah. Double reactors. Yeah, I don't even think I wanted to say anything more about Innovation, man. I don't think it even really matters. Well, you know, 1130, he's going to get Stim and Combat Shield, N+1, N+1. And Medevacs. Lots of ands going on. And he's just going to try to hit his opponent. Hit him where it hurts. And it fails miserably. I mean, this is pretty par for the course. And Innovation now transitions into making a largely Hellbat-focused force. Yeah, while getting another factory to begin to get Thors up, and all that good jazz. And largely Innovation's goal is to go for mostly barracks units with some factory support. You heard me talk about getting 8 barracks. Here's another tiny little micro adjustment that we're seeing. Often players will get this 1 factory, build 3 barracks, and then get a 2nd factory. Innovation is just doing the switch around. He's getting this factory first, and then bolstering up on all the barracks. Nifty, thrifty, United States. This is if he believes his opponent is going to be getting a little bit heavy on the air side and just desperately needs the support. It's generally also if you don't feel like you can do a lot of harassment, if you have to do big direct pushes. And given that there's really no edge for innovation right now, I mean, he's trying to do some medevac drops at the backside. I think this is very reasonable to want to focus more on a sturdier force first. Sturdy first. Yay for drops. Yeah, drops. Alright. I'm not too terribly interested in these sorts of maneuvers for the purpose of this show because of how unbelievably standard they are. We see them in like every single show that I do in this matchup. But it's this big concluding moment where tragically innovation is not quite at 2-2. It finishes right at the end of the battle, which kind of stinkers. But we're seeing life just wreck innovation. Is going to step forward. So in this baseline, in this setting the standards, I want to now flip over to life's side of things and take a look at him. And I think life does a slightly better job of adjusting throughout the course of this match. Just doing the basic reads on his opponent to be able to set himself up for the strong 3-base into Ling Bling Muta. Alright. Now everything that you're going to see at the start is not noteworthy. If it is noteworthy, then you're probably new to StarCraft. In which case, welcome! So good to see you. Thanks for tuning in, etc. Goes for the extractor first, then builds the pool first. Very typical timing when a player is in the mood to go for fast Zergling speed. We see, as an answer, sending this Overlord out into the middle of the map. Just trying to see, is there any proxy? Often you'll see a Marine right around now, and this Overlord can absorb some shots, and it's easy to go, oh crap, I can't let my Overlord die. I'll lose. I won't have any ability to defend the front. In fact, killing the Overlord takes enough time that you can secure your front. The first Marine kind of has to giddy up and go if it wants to be able to apply successful pressure. Once the Overlord has seen the Marine, it's a big race. If the Terran player can hide and bait the Zerg into building drones first, yeah, that's pretty effective. To be patient. It can be very effective then to kill off the Overlord. But in this case, life is staying close enough to a cliff that he can retreat to. Just very nice little opening stuffs. And he's going to get his speed right away. Pretty normal. What I do love a lot about life is that he's not shy about getting these first set of lings out just to make sure that he can do a lot of scouting. Oftentimes when you see a player get up a wicked powerful economy, it's because he avoided building every little bit of defense that he could. But life just makes broad, smart decisions. I mean, look at this. Even getting another pair of Zerglings. So a third queen is coming out. And you hear me talk about cutting corners, i.e. not building the defenses that feel like they will keep you alive and keep you safe. And what we're instead going to see life do is just be very, very lean with everything that he constructs. Drone going to go straight into building the hatchery here. 6 minutes is pretty typical timing. Scouting with these Zerglings, trying to be as efficient as he can. And normally, right around now, is an easy point to screw up. We've seen life not put any drones back into gas until after he gets this third up. So smart, so crisp. You don't ever want to over-tech too quickly. So here is another extremely smart move from life. Darts in just to see. Are you taking another gas geyser? No? Well, perfect. Greatly limits what you can potentially be doing. Definitely means that you're not trying to hide some sort of big blue flame Hellion attack. And here's another moment that I find very peculiar about Startail Life when compared to other players. Startail Life just is throwing out a bunch of Zerglings that will pop out right around 7 minutes. In other words, he started this hatch, started his second gas geyser, and built a bunch of Zerglings. somewhat unusual when compared to other players. But the big thing that we're going to see Life avoid is actually a 4th macro hatch. He's immediately getting his other extractors. These 2 evolution chambers are actually a little bit later than an average Zerg. Typically, Zerg players delay the layer in order to get their Zerglings as super upgraded as possible. But here we see Life getting his layer quickly. And it's really critical to know what the big weakness of Life is right now. The weakness that he's just banking on his opponent not doing. And that's a pretty heavy Marine-focused push coming up. The big thing you need against just a big, meaty ground army that has, you know, Marauders, Medevacs, Marines in it, you just need a lot of basic units, Lings and Banelings. In this case, Life is pretty confident his opponent is going for the quick 3rd. There's no real reason to get a Baneling nest. There's just not going to be that many Marines. There's no reason to have a ton of Zerglings out on the field. The only thing we're really going to be up against is Hellions. Maybe Banshees sometime soon, but I mean, this Overlord is keeping a very close eye on this Geyser. Very hard to be going Banshees right now. And just upon seeing more Hellions, it's very clear what's happening. It's just a standard play. And in this rather standard position, we see, wow, look at that. Absolutely no spine crawlers. Life is able to get this layer up so quickly, get the 1-1 at a reasonable time, but also get 4 geysers so quickly because he's gone for no spines. He's focused on getting all of these up as quickly as possible, and he absolutely took some damage here. But we're going to see more things that he'll do that I love, that I absolutely love. Not taking these geysers here for a little while, waiting until around 9 minutes to take them. And then he's going to set up a 4th hatch here, which I find oh so clever. Again, it's very easy, I think, to autopilot and to go, okay, well, I really kind of need a macro hatch very soon, but hey, Life's just killed off a whole bunch of Hellions. He can look at the Marines and see that they don't have combat shield. He can look and see that their upgrades aren't done yet. So, a typical Terran player, as we stop right here, a typical Terran player gets these medevacs out right around the time that a Zerg player is getting close to finishing a Spire. Not done with a Spire, but getting close. Typically, Mutalisks are popping out around 12 minutes. However, Life, by skipping over these upgrades and rushing for a quick layer, by skipping the spine crawler, he has enough money to get an unusually quick pack of mutas. And I think that its beauty can't really be appreciated until this moment right here. I mean, there's these little Zergling attacks getting set up. I mean, yeah, there's some Banelings getting built. Super late Baneling nest. The last thing that Life built seems to have been a Baneling nest. But look at the mutas popping out just in time to greet this medevac force. Would you look at that? And Life is, as it turns out, keenly aware that these mutas are going to be very important for defense. They're not rallied cross-map, they're just kind of sitting here, which makes sense for 2 reasons. For one, we already have made a big play, taking a 4th. So we probably don't want to be both taking a 4th and being the super aggro king. But also, the second big reason is this. Medevac timings are very, very popular for Terran players. Just doing a little bit of harassment before the Mutalisks can get into too large numbers. Normally Mutalisks would be just popping out right now. Imagine the resources that would be required to pick off a Marine Medevac force with just Ling Baneling. I mean, if you think about that, it's going to be very easy for Innovation to just deal some damage, shoot at the hatch, and then run away again. But with the super fast mutas, oh, so sexy, so good. And then it's just an extremely one-sided game from here on out. After that defense, just doing basic harassment. Staying back. Remember that macro hatch that we skipped over so long ago? Well, hey, here it is now. The upgrades for Life aren't super far behind either. Pretty much on point. It's almost a resource war that Life has won. Just quite literally has more stuff. Take it down. Got him. Yeah. More attempted dropping action. Not gonna work. Yeah. And this is the sort of thing where you're like, you know, maybe I should have thrown down a scan in the main and been a little bit more on point about checking for that muta timing. It's a little bit more new school, doing this super fast mutas with the third base. And of course it requires the impeccable read that your enemy is going for that 3 base Hellion defense focus style. And it's pretty easy cleanup from here. Marching straight into the main. Generally, Innovation won't be punished for not having that bunker at the front, but this is one of those circumstances where he is. And look, I'm just going to stop here because Innovation tries to fight for a little while longer, but it hurts really bad. Things are going to get gross. Here's the big takeaway I want you to snatch. Excuse me. From part 1. We see that these players are doing pretty normal looks to things. 3 command center Hellion defense into a bunch of bio. Into bio with a little bit of Hellbat Thor reinforcement. Very, very, very normal. On the Zerg side of things, 3 base and the Ling Baneling Muta. Very, very normal. The things that are working well are the little tweaks, getting the layer first, cutting the Baneling nest, cutting the 4th macro hatch, cutting the spine crawler, full well knowing the enemy is doing a very, very slow sort of play. Little spotting at the backside. Magnifique. Now, what we're going to see in the second game, in part 2, is life going for Roach Hydra, which is different. It's kind of a new fancy schmancy thing. It's very easy, I think, for a Terran player to think in one of 2 wrong ways. The first wrong way to think is, gosh, how do I get my Marine, Marauder, Mine build order to just win against Roach Hydra? Damn, I guess I better try to go Marine, Marauder, Mine harder. I'm going to try to macro better. Ugh. That can work. A lot of, I'd say a lot of the wrong build can be made right in StarCraft 2 just by having good mechanics and good decision making. But in, but the second wrong way to think about it, you can do the wrong thing successfully with good mechanics, but that doesn't make it any less wrong to do. Second of all, another thing that's easy to do is to lose to Roach Hydra and say, I have to do a completely different build. What we're going to see in part 2 is Innovation identify this Roach Hydra, and then he's going to kind of turn his build into a more Marine tank-focused thing, which is not a style we've seen in a long time, but it's one that's going to be very, very effective in this spot. So when we return, we're going to see that. On a break.